Hello. I think that we all love Millicent and Gowry. Their quest is one of the best quests in the game, and my personal favorite. The rewards they give you are great and are pretty much essential for Dex builds, and it gives us a lot of insight and lore into the Scarlet Rot, Melania, the Outer God of Rot, and anything Rot related. And I think that this quest should have had an influence on the ending. Like, what if we got the rotten mending rune or something like that? It would have been incredible. Like, why does this sow or hag or whatever you want to call her, Lani, gets her own special ending, but Scarlet Rot, which is, in my opinion, more prevalent in the game, doesn't have its own ending? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I'm not gonna ramble a lot. Did you know that our lovable Gowry and Millicent and their quest were inspired by a very sinister poem? Yeah, Miyazaki didn't just conjure these characters up. He was inspired by a poem called The Insect God. It was written by someone called Edward Gowry. Do you see the similarities? Gowry, Gowry. And this poem is also pretty similar to the story of Millicent and Gowry. The premise of this poem is that there was once a little girl called Millicent. Millicent gets kidnapped by giant insects, and then she's taken to a different place and is sacrificed to the insect god. That is pretty much it. I'm gonna read you this poem if you wanna listen to it, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't have the best reading or the sexiest voice. I'm not Vati. However, if you want the best experience for listening to this poem, there is a really incredible video, and I mean incredible video, by someone called Slaw Productions. It is a horrifying Claymotion video, and you should watch it. It is 1,000 times better than mine. So go watch it if you don't want to listen to my reading, and come back. I'm gonna leave the timestamps on the screen, and I'm gonna put a link to that video in the description. Oh, what has become of Millicent Frostly? Is there any hope that she's still alive? Why haven't they found her? It's rather ghastly to think that the child was not yet 5. The dear little thing was last seen playing along by herself at the edge of the park. There was no one with her to keep her from straying away in the shadows and oncoming dark. Before she could do so, a silent and glittering black motor drew up where she sat nibbling grass. From within came a nearly inaudible twittering. A tiny green face peered out through the glass. She was ready to flee when the figure beckoned. An arm with 2 elbows held out a tin. Full of cinnamon balls, she paused a second, reached out as she took one and lifted her in. The nurse was discovered collapsed in some shrubbery, but her reappearance was not much use. Her eyes were askew, her extremities rubbery, her clothing was stained with brownish juice. She was questioned in hopes of her answer revealing what had happened. She merely repeatedly said, "I hear them walking about on the ceiling." She had gone irritably out of her head. Oh, feelings of horror, resentment, and pity for things which so seldom turn out for the best. The car, unobserved, sped away from the city as the last of the light died out in the west. The Frostleys grew sick with apprehension. which a heavy tea only served to increase. Though they felt it was scarcely genteel to mention the loss of their child, they called in the police. Through unvisited hamlets, the car went creeping, with its headlamps unlit and its curtains drawn. Those natives who happened not to be sleeping heard it pass and lay awake until dawn. The police with their torches and notebooks descended on the haunts of the underworld looking for clues. In spite of their praiseworthy efforts, they ended with nothing at all in the way of the news. The car, after hours and hours of travel, arrived at the gate in an endless wall. It rolled up a drive and stood in the gravel at the foot of a vast and crumbling hall. As the night wore away, hope started to languish, and soon was replaced by all manners of fears. The family twisted their fingers in anguish, or got them all damp from the flow of their tears. They removed the child to the ballroom, whose hangings and mirrors were streaked with a luminous slime. They leapt through the air with buzzings and twanings, to work themselves up to a ritual crime. They stunned her and stripped her of her garments, and lastly, they stuffed her inside a kind of a pot. And then it was that Millicent Frastly was sacrificed to the insect god. Now, regardless of whose reading you listen to, I think you can see the similarities. Both girls were named Millicent. Both girls were kidnapped by insects. Like literally the first place you find Millicent in is a church surrounded by insects. Even Gowry tells you that these insects are kinda imprisoning Millicent and that they are worshipping her. And by the end, both girls were supposed to be sacrificed to an insect god or a rot god in the case of Millicent. Gowry literally tells you that you should kill Millicent at the end of her quest so that she can come back as Melania's Valkyrie when Melania becomes the Scarlet Rot Goddess. Also, in case you don't know, Gowry is pretty much confirmed to be an insect controlled by the outer god of Rot. Like, if you kill him, he will literally tell you that there is much more pests that he can control and that you will meet again. And like I said, Gowry's name is very similar to Edward Gorey's name. Hell, some people say Gowry is actually the wrong name and it was just a mistake in the translation and his real name should have been Gowry. So yeah, I think you can see the similarities between them, and Miyazaki loves to do this kind of stuff. I mean, in my last video, I talked about how Midra is pretty much inspired by Hastur, the King in Yellow. And who knows what other things inspired Miyazaki. So if you know anything that you think inspired Miyazaki in his games, please write them in the comment section, and I'll look into them, if I can. I know some of them, and I'm gonna talk about them eventually, but it would be cool if there was more things that inspired him, because like I said in the previous video, I love this shit. I love digging into things and seeing the inspirations. It's really fun and inspiring and incredible, and I love it to death. Hell, maybe I love it more than the lore of the game, which is a blasphemous thing to say, but I enjoy it. So yeah, if you know anything, write it in the comments, and this is the end of the video. like, subscribe, share, and all of the good stuff. And see you guys in the next one. Oh my god, I'm dying.